I guess we'll start recording. Okay, now I'll officially call the meeting to order. It's still 6:05. I really appreciate everybody coming. We learned during some of the supervisory union meetings where we had more than 30 people in attendance. Although I can see a lot of people on my screen, I can really only see about 16 of you, which means that if you have a question, I'm not going to see you. So what we're going to do, which we did before and it worked really well, is to have people raise their hand in the chat box. And I will monitor the chat box. And then if you have something to say, then we can, I'll be able to see you from the chat box, whereas I can't see you on the screen. But before we get started with questions, I think Christine has prepared a fairly lengthy and quite solid presentation for us. And so we're gonna have Christine present, and then we will address any questions that you guys have. So thank you. You're it, Christine.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming, and thank you for your continued and ongoing support during these challenging times. It's been a long 6 months, so it's really nice to see some of your faces tonight, even though it's through a computer screen. So what I'm going to do is share my screen, and I'm going to give you the most updated information that we have. And feel free to, type in the chat box questions along the way. I'll stop and answer them as best I can. No, this information is up to date at this point, but things have been changing pretty consistently throughout the summer. So we've tried to stay on top of things. And a big, huge thank you to the task force and the teachers and all of the staff at the school and the community. I mean, we've been meeting a lot this summer, and there's been fundraising, and I mean, it's pretty amazing. So I feel pretty fortunate to work in such an amazing community. So let me share my screen. All right, present. Okay, now I can't see you, so you just confirm that you can see my screen, somebody.
Yeah,
okay.
We got it.
All right. So I've listed the task force members here. Again, a big thank you. We have an SU task force that meets regularly every week, sometimes twice a week. And then we have a Heartland specific task force. And that's made up of myself, Brittany, Donna Hatch, our school nurse, Annette Jennings, and Patty Gray. And our COVID coordinator is our nurse, Annette Jennings, and she is on the line tonight. So if we have any nurse-related questions, she's here to answer them. Okay, so we'll get going. It is lengthy, and I will stop to take questions, but I just felt it was important to list why we feel like it's really, really important to open our schools for in-person instruction at this time while it is safe. And the reasons are listed here, but I'm going to go over them. We recognized during the remote time in the spring that most students really benefit from being in school in that kind of learning environment. It's really important for the social, emotional well-being. It's important for connections that kids are able to make with teachers and other students. Some kids, it's where they get a really important meal or two. And it's really a place where kids can get the additional supports they need, and that's much better accessed in person. And there's physical activity built in, which helps kids learn. All right. So our objectives for school health in the COVID era, we really are focusing on decreasing the risk of individuals infected with COVID-19 from entering the school, and that's why some of these guidelines might seem pretty strict. Decreasing transmission among staff and students, being able to identify quickly and put containment procedures in place, ensure that special needs of students with physical, emotional, and behavioral concerns are addressed in a fair and equitable manner, communicate with all of you, parents, students, as often as possible, and ensure that the guidelines, the health guidelines safeguards are an equitable experience for all students. So our vision is really, we've been working really hard this year. Our Portrait of a Graduate design team identified 5 competencies. I've listed them here. They might be, it might be the first time you've seen them. You'll be hearing about them more in the years to come, but they are communication, empathy, critical thinking, integrity, and perseverance. And while we know we've got a lot on our plates, we really want to keep those competencies in mind and embed them in units and lessons as often as possible. We're focusing on an integration of content and interdisciplinary units of study. Teachers actually plan some incredible interdisciplinary units in the spring that we're going to start the year off with this year. Core time for math and ELA, and increasing our project-based, experiential, place-based and play-based learning for kids. So that's where we're headed. Our vision during COVID, or our mission during COVID, is really to provide both an in-person / hybrid model in case we have to go in and out, and a remote option for families. We want a consistent curriculum for both groups. We want to provide our teachers, our students, and our families with a learning management system that's easy to use and includes a built-in curriculum. We would like to provide consistent expectations and schedules for in-person and remote options, and make sure our kids, our staff, our parents know how to use the learning management system, and then support all students' needs, academic and social emotional. So that's kind of big picture. So I thought it was important for you to see the survey data if you haven't seen it in other meetings. We've sent out 2 surveys and a form, and we're finally in a place where we're putting some class lists together. But when the surveys went out, we had 259 responses from Heartland families, 259 students. And we had 185 students or parents tell us their students were coming back to in-person instruction, and 74 students who are not planning to come back for in-person instruction. 60 of those preferred a school-sponsored remote option or school-run remote option, and the remaining students are signing up for home study with the Agency of Education. Any questions so far?
Nothing yet.
Okay. All right, so we are opening in step 2 of the 3 steps of opening. And that means that we can open with enhanced physical distancing measures for children who live in communities that are eligible for quarantine-free travel. I've linked the travel map, if you haven't seen it, in Vermont, which shows the counties and the color of the counties, and they change daily. It's updated regularly. So we are opening in step 2. Our buses, however, are opening in step 3, which the restrictions in step 3 are looser, but really haven't been communicated specifically. So buses are opening in step 3, and I'll give you some more information on busing when we get to that slide. The agencies providing guidance for us in this time are our risk management or our insurance company, the Agency of Education, and the Vermont Department of Health, and of course the governor, who's informed by the CDC guidelines. So I'm going to get into kind of the logistics that are going to happen, and school's going to be a little bit different this year for everyone. But I want you to know what to expect when kids come to school. So one of the things that we're required to do is a daily health check at the first point of contact. And those consist of some questions, which I've listed about symptoms and if you've been near in close contact with anyone with COVID-19, and then a temperature screening. These are for students and for staff. All staff also have to have a daily health check before coming into the school. So if you are a parent that is dropping off a student, we have a plan for a drive-through drop-off, a drive-through health check. We've identified 3 locations and split them up by the first letter of a student's last name to try to make it as efficient and as possible. We're gonna try to get the health checks done in about 20 minutes. We're gonna see if that works, from 8 to 8:20 every morning. And you are going to be asked to stay with your child until the health check is completed. And if the student or your child does not pass the health check, you'll be required to take your child home. The nurse will follow up with you. If you're late for school, which happens sometimes, Brittany and I will be set up at the front of the building, and we'll see you, or you can buzz and we'll come out and do the health check. And then when we do dismissal at the end of the day, we're going to try to use the same drop-off locations for pickup. Any questions on that?
Don't see. Oh, wait, we have one. Okay. What if your child has 2 different last names? Can they be dropped off at the same place? And the answer is yes to that. Yep. We'll just we'll have the list of students with a particular last name and write the name of the other child on that same form. And then there's another question about, what about the bus?
Yeah, bus is next slide. So here's the bus information. So we're going to staff our buses with 1 or 2. We're hoping 2 staff members to do health checks at bus stops. And same rules apply. If your child doesn't pass the health check, they're not going to be allowed to get on the bus. So we ask parents to be at the bus stop, or if your child's old enough to get to the bus stop alone and you're okay with the child getting back home alone, that's okay. And again, the nurse will follow up if your child doesn't pass the health check. So just so you know, I think it's important for you to know the measures we're taking on buses to keep the kids safe. So bus windows will be open at all times. So children are encouraged to dress accordingly. It could be chilly. If a student gets sick on the bus, he or she is going to be asked to sit in the front seat alone. We're going to group kids by age, youngest in the front, oldest in the back. Students from the same families can sit together, face masks on before kids get on the bus, and there will be hand sanitizer on the bus as the kids get on. So that's the bus information. Are there any questions about that?
We have one question. If one sibling has symptoms, do both children go home?
I think the answer to that is no, but I'm going to defer to Annette because it has changed. So my apologies. Annette, there was an update on that.
So correct, Christine, as of right now, only the one who's affected with symptoms has to go home. The other one can stay until we have more details of what exactly is wrong with that child.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Annette, you should have stayed on. Annette, we've just got some updated information on students with asthma and allergies. So we just added this slide in, and Annette, if you want to speak to this one, that's probably best.
Sure. So staff and students this year are going to be required to provide the school. As always, students have had to require an asthma action plan if they have asthma, and if they use an inhaler at times during the day, we require that you have an inhaler at the school if you can. And if your child has any kind of allergies, including seasonal allergies this year, we must have documentation from your PCP or your medical home stating what kind of allergies you have. And again, in the past, if you have allergies that require you to have an EpiPen, you have to have an allergy action plan on file. And we're asking parents and students to have all this, and staff for allergy documentation, just because there's so much crossover with allergies and the signs and symptoms of COVID. So that's just for this year as of right now. If you have questions, let me know.
Thanks, Annette.
Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry, were there any questions on the asthma slide or regulations?
Nothing posted yet.
Okay. So our plan when kids arrive at school, the guidance is that we should, limit traffic as much as possible within the building. So we are fortunate. We have classrooms that have exterior doors. And so we're going to be using those exterior doors to get into the building. So as soon as we have class lists and we know where your child's going to be, we're going to let you know. And the doors will be labeled with teacher names, and first few days, lots of staff will be out and about to help kids get to their rooms, but only staff and students are allowed in the building, which I know is really hard for parents. It's not that we don't want you in the building, we just are not allowed to have you in there at this time for the safety of everyone. Our kindergarten teachers are setting up some outdoor meetings with parents. As kindergartners, you know, they're new to our school, so we're trying to do everything we can to make them feel comfortable before the first day. Students will be asked to sanitize their hands upon building entry, so either, you know, washing them or using hand sanitizer. They will be required to wear a mask in the building, staff and students, at all times unless they're eating or drinking. And we're encouraging that they just bring their essentials from home, because they're going to have to store them in their allotted space in the classroom. We're not allowed to use lockers or cubbies in the hallways, so less is better this year. And you should know that there will be sign-in sheets outside each classroom, and when staff enter that room, other than, you know, the regular teachers, we have to keep track of that in case there is any sort of contact tracing that needs to be done. So that's kind of how they enter, and a little bit about procedures within the classroom.
Christine, there is a question about that.
Okay.
If students are using exterior doors to enter the rooms, how will the classroom teacher know they went to the screening station?
They're going to go from the screening station directly to their classroom door. So it's a great question. I'm assuming people will follow the rules and go to the drive up, and then the kids will pass the test. There'll be staff at the health check stations, and the teachers will be at the doors, you know, waiting. The doors will be open, so they should be able to, for many rooms, have line of sight. But if, you know, we'll think about that. If there are other ideas out there, please share them.
There are two more questions as well.
Okay.
Are parents staying in the car or parking? And I just wrote a note that they should be staying in their car. There'll be a traffic flow system for each of the points.
Yep.
How will it be ensured that families have enough masks and that they are laundered daily?
We'll get to that. That's on, there's a slide about that, so I'll just save that.
And there's a concern about students with behavior plans.
We can talk about that as well.
Okay, and then are homeschooled children allowed into the building for things?
They are not at this time, not in step 2.
And then there's a recommendation that perhaps there could be a slip of paper handed to each child after the screening that they have to turn into the teacher. That's an idea we could note. That's
a great suggestion. Yeah. Okay. Okay. We'll get to the mask, and we can talk about the behavior as well. So we're going to have social distancing rules in place in the school. The recommendation is that pre-K through 5, and this is just an updated guideline, should be spaced a minimum of 3 feet apart, 6 feet if possible. We're gonna work really hard to make sure it's 6 feet in our school for K through 8. To the extent possible, older students should be spaced 6 feet apart as well. When physical distancing is not possible, it's critical that students are adhering to the facial covering requirement. And this is also new guidance. A lot of teachers and parents and kids have had concerns. Well, we're in school. What if I need help from my teacher? So teachers are allowed to give one-on-one guidance or clarification or assistance. That's a brief contact, less than 15 minutes. The recommendation is not face-to-face, but side-by-side. And so, I mean, that one made me feel better. If a student falls down and needs help to get up, the teacher is able to do that. And our classrooms are set up so all students are facing the same direction. Will students stay in the same room all day? So students are assigned to a classroom, and they will be asked to stay in that room while they're in school, unless they're receiving a particular service, special education or intervention or guidance, and we have plans for that. They can leave their room, of course, to use a restroom or to use an outdoor space, which we're encouraging, and we have a lot of outdoor spaces set up for classrooms. Most classrooms have a restroom, Within the classroom, classrooms that do not, we've assigned various restrooms to grade levels or 2 grade levels so that we can limit use. And again, students and staff are going to be wearing masks at all times while in the building. If they are outside and 6 feet apart, we can take our masks down for a limited period of time. We're gonna start pretty strict so that kids can get used to the guidelines and see how it goes. But 6 feet apart outside, masks can come down. And the plan is for classrooms and bathrooms to be disinfected 3 times a day. So that was a lot. Are there any questions on those specifics?
I have 2 questions. What product is being used as a sanitizer?
The product is approved, I want to say EPA. Jim Taft, the head of maintenance, has been in over 100 hours of guidance with the insurance company. So we are using safe products, but I don't know these specific brand.
Okay. Who's walking the kids to the assigned door?
There will be, at each health station, we've assigned 4 staff members. So there are 2 to be doing the health checks and 2 to be helping students get to classrooms.
And what if you won't be able to get the doctor documentation regarding asthma or allergies by the start of school?
Annette, I'm going to defer to you on that one.
Yep. If you call your physician and your child has been seen within the last year, they should be willing to fill that out. I would ask them to mail it to you so it can be brought to the first day of school. I only say don't have it faxed because no one is there yet to constantly receive confidential information.
I'm there, Annette.
Are you there every day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. Or Linda. Okay. So if that works for people, we'll get it.
If faxing works, then go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, and then one more question. Will all pods have outdoor spaces, and will this be an expectation that they spend as much time outside learning as possible?
Yeah, in fact, there's a slide about that coming up as well. So I'll address that when we get there. That's okay. All right.
And I think that's it for now.
Okay. So breakfast and lunch, as many of you know, we have an incredible food service program at our school, and we're going to continue it this year, which is good news to us. But here are the guidelines for around lunch and breakfast and how it's going to happen at school. So students are going to be asked to wash their hands before and after meals. We're going to serve breakfast in the classroom from 8 to 8:30 every day. So it will be delivered on carts in coolers before they get there in the morning. And then the same procedure for lunch, and that will be served at noontime. Students are going to be able to sign up for lunch on a daily basis if they want to, or a weekly basis, whatever works for your family. And if you are a family that is is choosing the remote, 100% remote option for school, you will have the opportunity to call and order lunch in the morning. We're going to ask that you do that by 8:30, and then you can come and pick up the lunch at a designated location and time, which, since I made this presentation, we've figured that will be noon, and it will be the front of the building. So they'll just be outside with your name on them, and it'll be for pickup. For the first 2 weeks of school, we're going to provide breakfast and lunch for all our students free of charge, which hopefully makes the transition in easier for parents, and kids can try the food and see if they like it, which I can tell you they will, because it's pretty awesome. We're encouraging students to bring water bottles to school to keep in their space, and that's just to limit kids in the hallways going to fill up water bottles. All right. Good to go?
One quick question, Christine, or 2 questions actually.
Yep.
Are outside toilets being used?
At this point, we do not have outside toilets, but it is something we've talked about. We haven't gotten there yet, and we may get started and realize that we need them, and if we do, we'll get them. So
okay, I think that's it for now.
Okay. So many people are wondering if kids can mingle between classrooms, and the answer is no, they can't. They have to stay in their assigned cohort while they're in school. But 2 cohorts always the same too. So for example, both kindergarten classrooms can go outside for recess together or use the outdoor classroom spaces together. And again, they should still be spaced 6 feet apart. Our recess structures are going to be disinfected after each use by different grade levels or cohorts. And staff are thinking, actually Ms. Preston's been helping gather ways to organize recess activities so that kids can maintain their social distancing. And staff members that are assigned to pods may go from room to room, but students may not. I know it sounds harsh and very old school, but it's what we have to do. Are there any questions on those?
Yeah, we have a couple questions. Oh my. Will the weekend kids food program be started again?
I have not heard anyone speaking about that at this point, but I can jot it down.
Christine, I put it in the chat. I haven't talked to Helen about that. So
Okay.
we need to meet about that.
Okay. All right.
How is there room in a classroom for outside gear and bags without touching?
Well, every student has about 6 feet of space. So our hope is that the backpacks will hang on the back of student chairs or be put under their desks or in their space. And, you know, we can use the outside space somewhat. We actually measured the walls to see if we could hang hooks to fit backpacks outside. It's just, there's just not enough space. So if need be, we can use the outside for some backpacks, but our hope is kids are going to come with just the essentials. And I totally understand that when it gets cold, those essentials become more of them. So we will play it by ear, see how it goes, and adjust if need be.
And then can kids take the bus only one way and or only on certain days of the week?
Yeah, yes, they can. We'll just need to, you know, jot it down and know who and when and what days.
Okay, it looks like that's it for now.
Okay. Okay, so we're on the mask slide. So this is updated guidance as well. We said we were going to provide masks for all kids, I don't know, about a month ago, but that has changed. Students may come to school wearing cloth masks from home. There were parents that were concerned about the fit of the, you know, the store-bought, the surgical masks. So the guidance has changed. Kids can bring cloth masks from home and wear them. If a student doesn't come with one, then we will provide them with a mask. The recommendation is that they're clearly identified with a student name or initials so that they don't get mixed up. They should be, for younger kids, labeled top, bottom, front, back, so the children can put them on with ease. When they're not in use, they should be stored or labeled. We actually just came in today. We've purchased lanyards so that if a mask comes off, it can be still on the student. So that will help keep mixing of masks from happening. If they are cloth masks, they need to be washed every day after use. And we will reserve the right to have a child wear a mask that we provide if it looks like that's not happening, and work with families that need assistance with that. It would be great if you're a parent on this call, if you haven't had an opportunity to practice mask wear, having your children wear masks, that would be great before school begins, just to make it smooth. I've had lots of conversations with people about mask wearing. Kids in camps and summer schools have done a really fabulous job. I think for kids, it's probably easier than adults. Somebody said it's like wearing your pants. You got to wear your mask. So, are there questions on mask wearing? I
don't see any. Oh yes, there is. It might be helpful to have different design or color for each day, or maybe clearly have Monday through Friday near the name, just as an idea, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah.
There are also a lot of resources online that I'm happy to, we can maybe post on Facebook or something, videos for kids to watch that are fun about masks and how they're beneficial. So we can share that out.
Yeah, and we have been collecting those resources for teachers too, to use when kids come to school. So.
And one parent just said that it's easier to get a mask on their child than their pants. So that's perfect. Love it.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So I know this is a really important question that is on everybody's mind. And so I'm going to do my best to answer it with what I know. So what happens if there is a case in our school? So if a person develops symptoms in the school, the nurse is going to determine next steps. And there's a hotline we can call to help her make those decisions. The person or a student or adult that with symptoms may be asked to go to an isolation room, which we've had to make in the school, and be picked up. And that's the nurse's call if they're symptomatic. Of course, she'll work with you and any other resources that she needs to make that decision. If we have a positive case in the school, we're going to, obviously we're going to disinfect the spaces that were used by the person. If COVID-19 is confirmed in a student or staff member, we've been instructed to work with the Department of Health to determine next steps. And identification of a student or adult with COVID-19 in the school is not an indication that the entire school needs to be closed. And we are still awaiting algorithms from the Department of Health to help us make those decisions. Now, Dr. Baker's not here tonight, but we've talked at length about this and recognized that, and it actually happened this summer when we had a case in our food service program. Sometimes the anxiety around it is so great that we have to close. And if that is the case, then we will close. But at this point, we're still waiting for the algorithms to come out to help us make those decisions. And we will, we will let the staff and community know if there is a case in the schools. Of course, we won't be releasing names, but feel like the community and the staff need to know. I'm guessing there are some questions around this one.
We have one about what are the restrictions on masks, and Annette said no gaiters, but are there other restrictions, Christine?
I don't, can I have some more information on that? What do you mean by restrictions on masks? Like what kind of mask?
So I know they have to be double layered, correct?
Yes, they have to be double lined cloth masks. That's correct.
Do they have to, there's ones with valves, are those allowed?
Annette, I'm gonna let you go on that one.
I would presume so, because people are wearing them out and about in stores. They just don't want the gaiters. They don't think that the material is thick enough and that it gives enough protection.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Bob and Amanda? Okay. Yep,
Okay.
we're good on that one. Nicole?
For 1 second.
Yep.
David, I don't know if you're in charge of letting people in, but I'm getting texts from people that they want to get into the meeting and can't. So I don't know how the meeting organization transitioned.
I changed my ownership to
Yeah, Angie's got the ownership now.
Okay.
and I'm not getting any requests. So, and I've been owner for the last 10 minutes. So
Shoot. Okay.
Okay.
I'll
And
go back.
And David, you're here.
Could be another reason. Yeah.
I can't see you, David. So I just said you weren't here, but you are here. So
I noticed that.
I'm sorry.
I was going to just stay incognito and let you keep talking until, yeah.
Well,
no.
it sounds like there aren't questions on this. We know it's a sensitive issue, and we're going to do our best to ease people's worries around it and make sure we're safe. So
I think we're all good, Christine.
okay. So contact tracing. If there is a confirmed case of COVID-19 in a school, a member of the contact tracing team will reach out to the person with COVID-19, and they'll discuss who they had close contact with, and they'll reach out to the school, myself, the nurse, and our team to determine next steps. The contact tracing team will work with the school to notify the students and staff who are possibly exposed to the virus that causes COVID-19. And the Department of Health is prepared for this. They have, from what I hear, plenty of contact tracers to help us through this if need be. And then, we'll work with them to mitigate the situation. Are there questions on contact tracing?
I don't see any yet.
Okay.
Oh, wait, yes, I do.
Okay.
Actually, it's a comment. My understanding is that the valve masks are not safe as it allows all droplets to be exhaled and not captured at all, which defeats the whole purpose of wearing the mask. So maybe that's something, Annette, you could look into.
I absolutely will tomorrow.
Okay,
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay. Okay, someone asked about outdoor spaces. I have to, before I even get started, I have to thank Jill Rubin. I don't know if she's on the line, but she reached out to me a couple months ago and offered to help fundraise for outdoor spaces. So we've had a committee that's been meeting, and many people in the community have donated funds and their time to help us get spaces set up. So we feel really lucky. And we know it's safer to be outside, so teachers will be taking students outside as much as possible this year. All grade levels do have a designated space to use outside. We just actually today, when I was in, 2 large carports were put up on the soccer field yesterday. So they're coming in. They were not easy. It's hard to get these kinds of things these days, but we managed to get some. We have a couple more carports coming in expected before school. So we have those, and we have outdoor class spaces that we've cleared and set up lean-tos. So every class has a space to be outside, which is great. And I know that staff are planning to be outside as much as they can. So that means kids need to come with the appropriate gear, and that includes, parents apply sunblock and bug spray before coming to school. That's helpful. And when, again, when kids are outside and 6 feet apart, they can take their masks off. So we are intending to take advantage of this, horrible situation in a positive way and get our kids outside more. Did I answer the questions about outdoor spaces?
I think so, but there is a question. Winter gear is already difficult to provide. What happens if families are missing gear, forgotten, or not purchased?
We will get there when we have to. I know we have a supply of extra gear, and as long as we are disinfecting it, I'm assuming we can give it to kids to wear. Annette, would you agree with that?
I have very limited winter gear for kids.
In the nurse's office.
In the nurse's office, yeah.
I'm pretty sure the K and 1 teachers have a pretty decent supply, but we can always ask the community and the Christmas Project. I know they've helped us before with winter gear. So if it's a need, we will take care of it.
There's a question about how the outdoor rooms are being heated. They're not actually outdoor rooms. They're woods classrooms. They're just spaces out in the woods, or they're carports. So they're not actually going to have heat in them.
That is correct.
So is it an expectation that kids will spend most of their day outside?
So the expectation is that they're going to spend as much as they can outside. Yes. We haven't designated how much time teachers need to be out there, because I trust that they are going to, take their kids out as much as they feasibly can. So yeah, they'll be outside. But it might be, a combination of outside for morning meeting, inside for a little direct instruction, outside for science activity. So the teachers know best, and they will use their best judgment. But I know they all want to be outside as well. So
and it says middle school as well, correct?
Middle school, I've 5-6 has pretty good space actually, and 7-8 has a designated space. I've been in contact with them. They've asked for 2 carports, so they would like to be outside with their kids as well.
I think that's it for now.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, it's not. Just a compliment of all the work everybody's been doing. So thank you for that. That's nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Back. Okay. So this might get to the behavioral question that was asked. So how are we going to support the social emotional health of our students? We have a pretty amazing MTSS multi-tiered system of supports in place that helps ensure that all kids get what they need. That might be academic support or behavioral support. During this time, we're going to encourage our kids to talk to their teachers about how they're feeling and their concerns. We have school counselors available. We also have We Are Hope services that will continue this year. And we have a connection with HCRS that we a partnership with them to support students and families who need additional supports. I can share in the behavioral, around the behavioral concern that we've been working on this. The administrative team is creating a compact for families to kind of outline the steps that we're going to need to take if all of the supports we put in place start to fall apart with a particular student or students, and that may happen. We are proactively meeting with families that we believe or think we might need to make a plan with ahead of time. We've designated some specific spaces for a specific space for a grade levels to go to if need be. If students start to escalate, we plan to use our best de-escalation strategies to kind of calm them down. Taking breaks outside is recommended, and we'll work with families. I don't know if Katie, you're on the line, if you want to say any more about students and behaviors. Maybe Katie's not on the line anymore.
I am on the
Okay.
line. And I think I was just looking at one of the chat questions had to do with tokens and some of the social emotional supports. So we are continuing with HCRS in place, and we are waiting on some of the guidance from the AOE about some of the behavioral aspects that may change in terms of how we may need to intervene with students. But overall, we're really looking at beefing up and supporting students using collaborative problem solving, looking at our individual who does even our crisis prevention intervention training, how they're changing and looking at much more proactive preventative measures, building relationships. So that will really be our focus. There's also a plus side to students being in classrooms for the day. We have far fewer transitions, and transitions actually tend to be some of the most difficult things for students to do. And because they're not transitioning from place to place and having to interact with too many different personalities, we naturally have cut down on that. So a strange plus side to our restrictions is that. Any other specific questions about that?
A couple other questions that I can chime in with. Will students be able to receive services from HCRS at school?
So yes. So the current the counselors that were in place, Nicole Moretta, one of our HCRS clinicians, is still planning on being back. We're going to work out a schedule so she can either see students in person at school or remotely during the afternoon time. We kind of work out on a case-by-case basis. So we're trying to be flexible and responsive because for students, and how it might have worked really well for them in the spring, building on the remote, or it will be in person. So yes, they are returning this year.
And Tiffany, just to extend on that question, you asked, what about other therapists? Can you clarify what you mean by that?
Yes, just not the ones who work in the school every day, but like if a child has another therapist that they see that was going to the school previously, will they be able to come into the school? That works with HCRS, just a different one.
If they are someone who works with HCRS and they're part of that system, yes, it's the only individuals allowed in the school are ones with contracts with the school, and HCRS would be the ones with contracts with the school or other itinerant personnel that work for the district. So okay, I think.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah.
And then there's a question about tokens. Instead of token, is Heartland planning to use the PBIS app with families to recognize the positive behavior within the classroom? At this time, we haven't moved to the PBIS app yet. We are going to use tokens, but we modified how we're using them so that they're not passed between students. It would be more the teacher just recognizing and putting them into the jar on their own, versus, and then just seeing the growth that way. So we won't be passing things back and forth.
And then, yeah.
What's that?
I said we can certainly check out the PBIS app.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I hadn't looked into that yet. In what ways will social emotional support be extended to students learning remotely?
That's a great question. And it's still, I have to say, we're still working on a schedule and where people will be. I believe that, we'll figure it out. I just don't have a specific answer at this time. But David, you're still on the line. We did share with parents on Monday night, I believe, that those supports would be available to remote students.
Yeah, could you just explain a little further what supports are we talking about? I'm sorry, I might have missed the details of that.
Social emotional supports for kids that are remote, guidance counseling, We Are Hope services, HCRS clinicians. Would they be available remotely? Yeah,
most of those folks know how to work remotely and know how to deal remotely. So I could say yes. I mean, upon request or if the need presents itself, those kids have access to our MTSS system and our multi-tiered system of supports. And if that's part of the support we have to offer, we'll figure that out. I don't know if Katie has another thought, but would you agree with that, Katie?
Yes, and any student that has, that's sort of back to what I mentioned before, at HRS also doing it remotely, that any student that's on a remote plan that had HRS clinician as part of their plan would be able to access that remotely. It might be a different platform depending on what HRS is using, but certainly that's doable. And we've already had that discussion with HCRS too.
Yeah, we just haven't finalized schedules yet. So we will. Work in progress. Okay. So travel guidelines, in this time, we're all doing our due diligence to try to stay put. But if you are traveling anywhere in the country, including a county in New England, that is anything other than green, your child is going to have to quarantine for 7 days and then take a COVID test, and that test needs to be negative, or quarantine for 14 days without a test, but be symptom-free. The good news is travel in Vermont is unrestricted at this time, so you can go anywhere in Vermont and not have to quarantine. And if you are traveling, we would ask that you notify us so that we can keep track of that. And we really appreciate your help with that. I attached the link. I'm sure you're familiar with the travel map that Vermont updates every Friday. And that's for everybody's safety. And it's the same for staff as well. All right, hearing nothing, I'm gonna move on. So what will our curriculum be for this year? So we've had lots of meetings and talk and discussion on what we're gonna do for curriculum. We've landed on the VTVLC curriculum, which is embedded in the Canvas platform, which is a K-12 platform. It'll be for our remote-only students. And when our kids go remote, if they go remote, our in-person students will use that as well. So what we're asking teachers to do in the first few weeks of in-person instruction is really get the kids familiar with Canvas and the curriculum that's in it, so that if we go remote, they'll know how to use it well. And our top priority when kids come back is to really get to know them, build relationships, build trust with them. That's a number one priority. It's really important, especially, we haven't seen them in a while. And if we do happen to go into remote instruction again, it's really important to have a really strong bond with a teacher. And the teachers are planning to deliver these amazing units that they've planned in the spring during the first part of the year when we're in person. So that's what the curriculum is going to look like. Of course, the staff is just being introduced to VTVLC and Canvas, so they, and they're diving in and really want to do what's best for kids and families and make this work. But we have a lot to learn as well. Are there any questions about curriculum?
2 questions.
Okay.
One's not about curriculum. Okay. If a parent travels, regardless of whether the child does it still apply that they have to get tested and quarantine?
I believe I just read a document that says no. that the child would not have to quarantine. But David, are you still here? Can you confirm that? I think that was in the travel document you sent this afternoon. If a parent travels to a yellow or red county and comes back, the child does not have to quarantine. Just confirm that.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, we have a couple more questions, Christine.
Okay.
Are kids with the same teachers as in the spring?
We are still developing class lists. Likely not at this point. But our goal is to have our list. There are lots of things in play to figure that out. We have to know who's going remote and reassign teachers to remote instruction. So our goal is to have that finished by Monday.
Okay. It's possible that a student may have non-COVID viral symptoms for multiple days. How will the lost academic time be addressed while they are home?
Well, that was one of the reasons we went with the VTVLC curriculum. If they are home quarantined or sick, they will have access to that, which will help them stay up with peers. If their teachers are using other curriculums, we'll do our best to provide what we can for the student who is home. We know it's going to be a challenge for everybody, but we'll do our best.
If a parent is working in a red or yellow zone every day for work, what are the suggestions for the student?
They can come to school without quarantine.
Yeah, because that's considered essential work on the part of that parent. So we have to honor that, and they'd be allowed to come to school.
Yeah.
It says, what will the teachers be doing if in-person learning goes remote? You said that students will be going to VTVLC.
Yeah, VTVLC, the Canvas is the learning management system. We recognize that some of our younger students in the spring use Seesaw, so teachers have the Seesaws available to them, and they may be doing some supplementing or embedding. We're still learning about Canvas, and we've heard you can embed Seesaw in your own lessons and create modules within VTVLC. Angie, are you on the line? Do you want to speak to that a little bit, or do you think that answered that question?
Well, I can embellish your answer. The reason that we went with a learning management system that had embedded curriculum is because last spring, our teachers used a variety of resources, but a lot of what they were doing online was created. They created it and they uploaded it. It was a tremendous amount of time in preparation. Mm-hmm. The Vermont VLC curriculum is offered through a partnership with AOE, with Vermont Agency of Education, to any school in Vermont. There are a lot of schools taking advantage of this, and the reason we hopped on board with it, not that we think adopting new curriculum for without a process is a good idea, but in this case, we had to provide something for our teachers and our students that was consistent, so that our remote-only students are getting a similar program to what our in-person students are getting, so that when we all come back together, when all this is over with, and when we can all come back together, the goal is that we have less differences in learning, and that our children are more in the same place. So that was the VTVLC.
Yeah, so just to clarify, Nicole, our teachers will be teaching those remote instruction if we go remote. So right now, the remote-only students are being taught by specific staff in our district. And if we all go remote, then whoever that child has as their teacher in person, then they would be their teacher in remote learning. So hopefully that answered your question.
And the remote-only teachers are assigned to those teachers across, and there will be the remote-only students are forming their own cohort with a teacher that's a teacher in our WSESU. It's not necessarily a Heartland teacher. Heartland students will be mixed with Windsor, Wethersfield, and Albert Bridge students, and will form their own cohort sorry, I cannot say that word tonight, cohort, and be working in groups and doing group assignments with them virtually.
So David, the next question is for you. What are the district's expectations regarding how successful reopening strategy will be? Acting Super Sherry Sosa said some colleagues think likelihood of remaining open past October 1 is weak.
Yeah, well, certainly from a county perspective, we'll use the algorithm that the VDH sets up, and I don't have it right in front of me, but it's pretty specific about closing a complete school. But I think more importantly, which is why we're kind of leaving the afternoons of that first week, actually the first week or two, pretty available. So I wouldn't expect a lot of synchronous work in the afternoons of those first couple of weeks, because we really do want to debrief with staff on a regular basis. I think it's going to be much more about what's the general feedback around the ability of, our children to maintain the restrictions and to stay distanced and to keep masks on, and sort of taking a real look through the lens of the emotional and social well-being of students and staff. Is this working? We just don't want to create a lot of anxiety and angst, and we certainly don't want to have to be in a situation where we simply find that we can't keep students distanced and we can't keep students masked. I mean, I think that's going to be really critical for the staff. So I think that's going to be our biggest indicator, is around how well the students respond to these restrictions. And I know that folks have mentioned, and maybe you talked about it tonight, well, they've been doing it in summer camps and they've been doing it, but the bottom line is, first of all, that they had different restrictions and different guidelines, and also a summer camp activity is different than a school classroom activity. So I think until we get started, and from around the country, there's some good news from states that have already opened their schools. There's a couple of states that have really struggled with the opening. So I think it's really going to be how do Vermont students and especially how do students in our supervisory union in the Upper Valley respond to these restrictions. And if we feel that we can't maintain those restrictions, and we're creating a dangerous space for staff or students, then that's when we'll decide to shut down. I hope that doesn't happen, but we'll be in touch with parents. I expect through that email format that I've been using, I expect to almost on a daily basis for the first few days, to get, to just give you a general update. I'm sure your building principals will as well. But it's really just a wait and see. I'm feeling optimistic. I think our kids are cooperative. I think parents have been working with them all summer. I feel good about our staff's attitude toward going back. I think they've really turned a corner, and I think they're ready. They're ready to go, and they're going to give it their best shot. But we will keep you posted on how well our little ones do. K actually, and our big ones too. K to 12.
Okay, there's a couple more questions, Christine.
Okay.
There's some confusion around why, if we go remote, it's not with the same teachers that they had in the spring.
Why, if we go remote?
Well, so the students will be moving into a new grade, which means
Right.
they have a new teacher. So they would be building relationships with that teacher and go remote with them. Does that answer your question, Donna?
Okay. Now, if they're in middle school, they're going to have some of the same teachers that they had last year.
Yes.
So
yeah, that's true.
There will be some, but
Donna said yes, she's okay.
Okay.
Nicole Boynton, did we answer your question? I think you said yes.
Okay.
So I'll move on to the next one here, and then you can chime in if something's different. Last year, remote fell a lot on parents to teach. If we go remote this year, will the schedule hold?
the schedule that was used last spring. Well, we've been talking a lot about that, and we would like the schedule when we go remote to mirror the in-school schedule as much as possible. We just think that's, good for the kids, hopefully good for the parents. But we did need our parents to partner with us in the spring, especially for the younger students. And I can't imagine, I hate to say this, I can't imagine that will be terribly different. It's just younger kids need more support.
He said he meant mirroring in school, so mirroring what's happening.
The schedule. We're gonna try. I feel like we learned a lot in the spring. We did our best. Our teachers did amazing work. But we got feedback, and on the one hand, it's nice to be able to have the ability to do your work later in the day, and there'll be some of that. But we're going to really try to mirror the school day schedule when and if we go remote.
Okay. There's another question here. Hold on. What is the plan regarding children that won't keep their mask on during the day?
So again, we're going to work with those families, and we're working on a compact. I can share a little bit of what we've been talking about. This is school, and kids are there to learn. So if a student is refusing to wear a mask, and we recognize there's a difference between can't and won't. So we're talking about the kids that won't. We will likely ask them to have a little education meeting with the school nurse to talk about why everybody needs to wear a mask. We'll give that student another shot at it. If it doesn't work, we will we'll call a meeting with the parents, and we'll make a plan to do some collaborative problem solving, some restorative practice, and let that student try again. If it's still not working, then we will meet with the parents, and we will figure out a plan that's going to work for that student. And that plan might include remote learning. That plan might include that student being in a different place in the building. So it's dependent on the child and the family.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay. All right. So I just put up a sample schedule. This is not anything set in stone, but I'm a visual. So just to give you a sense of what the day is going to look like: arrival, settle in, breakfast, morning meeting. Our class, our teachers are responsive classroom trained. We do morning meetings. We'll do ELA, build in some mask breaks outside. We know we're going to need them. Math, more breaks. And as I said earlier, the teachers have been planning interdisciplinary units of study for kids to start the year with. So that'll be part of the time. And then lunch and get ready for dismissal. In the afternoon, as Dr. Baker said, the first couple of weeks there won't be much for kids to do. We're going to be processing how it's going, doing some professional development with teachers. We may ask kids, once we get into a rhythm, to do some independent reading when they get home, or a short assignment. And then, last hour of the day, starting around 2:15, we're brainstorming what this would look like. We've talked about related arts. We've talked about what I need time, some small group work with teachers, some choice board challenges, building in some time for fix and finish. So we really want to structure the day and keep it consistent for kids and families. So this is just a sample. Don't hold me to it. Things change rapidly these days, but it's kind of what we're thinking. And I know parents have been reaching out. When are we going to know who our child has for a teacher, where their room's going to be? And we're doing the best we can to get this information solidified. We're thinking by the 24th, what's today, the 20th, Monday? We're thinking by Monday, we should have that pretty final. We put out 2 surveys and a sign up. I forget what it was. And we haven't, there's some confusion. If you've done the survey once or twice, you might assume that you're automatically in the remote group, but we did send out a confirmation document for families to sign up. So we've got some calls to make, and we're getting there. So we're hoping by Monday. And depending on how many remote students we end up having, that impacts, we have to provide teachers for those students, and that has an impact on the in-school grade levels. So we're working on that as quickly as we can, and we will let you know.
There are a couple questions, Christine.
Okay.
A fifth grader asking about library and art.
So one of the reasons that we went with interdisciplinary units is because we recognized in the spring our related arts staff worked really hard, but it wasn't mandatory. So we want to make sure that kids get related arts, which is the reasoning behind the interdisciplinary unit. So art will be built into the units. We are music, PE, health. We are assigning related arts teachers to pods, and they will have to stay in those pods for we haven't decided yet, maybe a trimester, and switch them around. We've talked about in the afternoon time, VTVLC does have related arts curriculum that we could use in the afternoon so that children get those important opportunities. So we're still figuring out the details on that.
There's a concern or request that parents be notified ASAP if students are not going to be required to wear masks due to some sort of, emotional issue or whatever that they might have in school. Is there a plan to extend the in-person school day to a regular schedule?
We're going to reevaluate after school's opened and see if we can do that. So there's no plan in place now, but we recognize that if things go well, we're going to look at it and hope we can increase the day.
I was reading through questions, so I didn't quite hear your answer about the library and the art, but I'm assuming that extended to band as well, whatever it was you said.
So band, we're trying to figure out band, and one of our principals, Jen Aldrich, she has a background in music, and so she is our lead on that. And we are trying to figure out a way for kids to have opportunities to take instrument lessons. We actually, our music program continued pretty strongly in the spring. So the goal is yes. The logistics we haven't figured out yet.
Okay. Then there's a question about, they saw math and ELA on the schedule, but not science, social studies, Spanish. Just wondering about when those will be taught.
Those are embedded in the interdisciplinary units of study. In the middle school level, their schedule's a little bit different. Kids will not be switching classes. Teachers will. So it's embedded in 7-8 at this point. But school's going to look a little bit different. We're going to do the best we can with kids in the same class and having to assign staff to different roles. We're going to do the best we can to make sure kids get those opportunities. As much as we can.
That's it for now.
Okay. All right. I think we're almost to the end. Athletics, Brittany. David, did you want to say something?
Well, I think earlier in the chain, and maybe it got answered in the chat box, I saw the question about 8th grade algebra 1.
Okay.
Did we answer that?
No, I didn't hear that question. Do you want to take it?
I typed the answer into the chat box.
That's what I thought. But
Yep.
anyhow, it will be remote and it will still be offered. We're just working on what time of day, but that's good. Thanks, okay. Brittany.
Yep. So, there is another question too. Is the school willing and able to help think about afternoon support opportunities for working parents? For example, family pods looking to support each other.
We have not discussed that, to be honest. We do have the rec that is offering after school, the after school program. I don't know if it's full yet, but we have not talked about that yet. It's something we can. I don't know if David, are we allowed?
Are we allowed what?
After school. Brittany, can you repeat the question? Family.
I like that. I like that. I think it was something about other ways to set up family pods for after school, or, I think, given the logistical and organizational concerns just related to the opening, I think that's one of the reasons, we just have not had time to address that. I mean, We do have a rec program in Windsor and a rec program in Heartland that's going to try to do that. But I'll tell you, it's allowed, and any family that wanted to try to organize that, and and could figure out a way to, again, carpooling is we as we said, carpooling is okay. Kids have to be masked. It follows sort of the guidelines. But if there were parents that wanted to cluster or organize, and because I know some parents have to work, other parents are working from home, other parents aren't working at all. So I mean, I think if there was a way to do that, we just haven't had time to organize that. But I think that would be a great idea. In the meantime, the rec department, both in Windsor and in Heartland, are offering that program.
She suggests that the school helping might look like coordinating those interests among families, or helping host a middle school babysitting course. Fine. So just something we can note.
Okay. So Brittany tackled the athletic guidelines that came out last week. She's met with the athletic directors and with Dr. Baker and probably some other people. But she's gonna kind of run down the guidelines for athletics for us.
Yeah, the state actually made my job pretty easily this time. So we're right now, Heartland, it will be doing intra-squad practices. That means just among Heartland students and scrimmages. All athletics will be taking place outside, so there will be no access to the building. Masks are going to be required for all coaches and athletes, including during the athletic play. As much as possible, they need to stay 6 feet apart. So they're going to organize, team meetings 6 feet apart, things of that nature. Currently, spectators are not allowed at the events unless they remain in their cars. But we hope to revisit as soon as we can within the first couple weeks of school to adjust as much as we're allowed to. Just like always, athletes are not allowed to play on other recreational or AAU teams during the season. And we'll follow all of the cleaning and, possible case responses as the school does. Are there any questions about the athletic pieces?
No, I just want to thank Brittany for the work she did on this. Sometimes just sorting through the myriad of state guidelines and state requirements. But she did a great job, and we're going to be following this K right through 12, basically. So because we're trying to figure out how to play 7-man football and all that other stuff. But I want to thank you, Brittany.
Yep. And then there's a question: middle school teams will not be playing games. So at this point, they will not be playing games, but we do hope that soon we'll be able to open up to at least middle schoolers playing other teams within our SU. And then hopefully, if things go really well, we'll be able to expand from there. But at this time, they will not be playing games.
Okay, good to go.
All right. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So in case you probably already know these things, but what can you do to help? Continue to follow all the guidance. So wear masks, practice social distancing, stay home if you're sick. And remember, if you're traveling, quarantine for the recommended time. So it is safe to do in person now. That is what the doctors and the epidemiologists are telling us, that it is safe to open schools in person now. And so we're going to do that. But only because our case numbers are low. And obviously this could change if people ease up on following the guidelines. So we need the whole community to work together on this. You've been an amazing support through this whole pandemic, and I'm sure that will continue. But that's just if you're curious what you can do to help, that's a great help. And then I've attached just some resources about, the wearing tips for getting kids to wear masks and some stories to read about mask wearing, etc. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now, and if there are other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
There was a concern that the rec was not set up to do homework responsibilities while supporting students. So of course, Christine and I have talked about that, and I think the school is just going to be as flexible as we can with allowing students to complete that extra work at other times, you know, in the evening or so forth as best we can.
Yeah.
I did see Donna's question about, and I think this must be about family pods or after school rec programs. It's sort of like, what's the point of a half day if we're going to allow students to go to other pods in the afternoon? I mean, I think that, Donna, what we got to remember is that the pod restriction in school is much more about contact tracing than it is about transmission. So if a family has another setup with something else after school, they would just have to add that to the contact tracing when those contact traces get involved. So I think it's a good question. And again, the pod work is a lot more about the contact tracing. I also saw Jenny's comment about Dartmouth Hitchcock and working on supporting the workforce out there and figuring out ways to do that. And Jenny, I would certainly say if we would love to partner with you. So if you have a specific time to meet or you want to set up a meeting, just email. I'd say the best place to start would be Angela Dew and myself, and then we'd be glad to partner with you around that. Because again, we don't know the duration here of this, so it would be good to have that brainstorming in place.
Excellent.
I want to just give a huge shout out to our administrative team in Heartland and the SU's administrative team and the whole cohort of teachers and staff and just everybody, nurses, everybody that got together. Yeah, huge thank you, Beth. Huge round of applause to everybody because I know that you guys have worked like 12-hour days all summer long. And then just for the families that are on the phone, on top of all of that work that they've been doing, we've also been finishing our Portrait of a Graduate work, which is
I think you might be freezing up a little bit, Nicole.
Full strategic for the next 5 years. So hopefully everybody heard me. And I just want to say thank you and appreciate you guys' hard work.
Well, I'm always available. If questions come up, just email or call the school, and we'll do our best to answer your questions or talk you through concerns.
So if there are no other questions, I think we can move on to our regularly scheduled meeting a few minutes early. Everybody is welcome to stay on. We're going to get back to board business now. And I need to find my agenda on my screen. Okay. So we're going to move ahead with approval of the minutes from our retreat on July 17th, 2020. Do I have a motion from anybody for that?
So moved.
Okay, we have Scott moving. Do I have a second?
Second.
That sounded like Colleen. Okay. Okay, were there any comments or discussion on the meeting minute? Any discussion? Okay, so we'll move to vote. All those in favor of the July 17th, 2020 meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? Any abstentions? No. Okay, I'm going to do that second. And Jenny asked what kind of support would be most appreciated by teachers and staff. We'll go back to our meeting really quickly. Christine, Brittany, do you have any ideas?
Our teachers are pretty amazing, and they just love. I mean, I know they just appreciate being appreciated in any way. So, messages. They love coffee. Any kind of treats like that, they love. I don't know. There's some on the line. What would be helpful? I see Tina. She's right there.
Chocolate.
Chocolate's always good. I think just, being supportive in the community makes it makes a huge difference. But, just little, I can't tell you when just reading the chat, thank you. I mean, it just makes me tear up because that's all you need, really. But so hopefully that helped. That was Jenny that asked that question. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. That was a good question. Okay, so we've approved the minutes. Now we have a slot for public participation. Are there any public on the line that did not get a chance to participate in what we just talked about that want to participate in something now? Okay, I don't see anything, and I'll just keep an eye. Just to look at the agenda, I think we tried to keep the agenda pretty simple for today, knowing that we were going to have an 1.5-hour meeting prior. We have an additional COVID update. I think we have a hiring to do. We want to discuss portrait of a graduate because moved for recently. I know you talked here again, and I can't honestly remember why I was, but if you have any more update to give to just the board, we appreciate that.
I do, if you'd like it. I'm going to share my screen again. It's brief, just a brief update. Hold on one second. I did this more for me to be able to see it because keeping a lot of information in my head, it's better if I write it down. So I will it's a very brief report tonight, but I thought you might be interested in the bus information. Linda's worked really hard on this for us to make sure we can follow the guidelines on our buses. So we do meet the guidelines. So on bus 1, we've got 23 kiddos in 16 seats, and that's family members sitting together, and you can see the rest. So that's actually good news. We don't need additional buses. We looked at, can we combine some routes? And honestly, if we did, kids would be on the bus for an 1.5 hours one way. So it's just not feasible in Heartland. So any questions? Yeah.
That seems like good news.
It is. I think
that is good. And I want to thank all those parents. I know that we're doing it out of an abundance of caution, but all those parents who have agreed to work out transportation privately. That I know that's not easy. I know you've had to reach out to neighbors and especially folks who work and set up carpools, but that's really going to help those bus students stay safe. So thanks to the whole community.
Yeah.
Thank you to Linda for pulling that together.
Yeah, Linda and John Samuel, who knows every stop in the town, he helped as well, trying to figure out what makes sense. So it's good. Okay. This is just hot off the press. Angie presented some information this morning. We were looking at numbers. We had 42 officially sign up for the remote option as of what time did we meet? 11 o'clock this morning. They're just broken down. This chart has a couple of errors we found. There was a glitch when Angie ran the spreadsheet, so it's close but not exact for which ones are going to be remote. So we have 15 students that had indicated they were going to be remote but didn't fill out the sign up, the official sign up. So we've been working on calling them. I think we have updated numbers, but I haven't had a chance to look at them. Angie, do you have anything to add on that?
I just put in the chat that we're at 45 confirmed remote only.
Okay.
I do not have the breakdown by grade level for kiddos in Heartland only. I just know the 15 that are left, what their breakdown is. So I don't have that by the grade level. Do you want that? I probably could do that.
I just thought people might be curious about kind of where it plays out and what grade level.
Yeah. Fairly, overall the data for the SU is fairly wide, is fairly evenly spread K8. There is no like cluster at middle school or cluster in the primary. It's fairly well evenly distributed.
Okay.
So just a second, if I sort these by grade, I'll get it to you. I'll
That's fine.
put it in the chat, okay?
And it's subject to change, right?
Do that.
Up to date as we've got. So that's the COVID update. You have questions or more to discuss? I'll just listen now.
So the 45 remote, that's SU wide, or that's just Heartland?
That's just Heartland.
So 10 second graders going remote that's like a lot of the class. So are we having to shift all our staffing and classrooms and things like that based on that?
Well, that is the next task to figure out, to be honest, Beth. And that's what we were working on this morning. So there are lots of parts to the process. Staff have staff that have needed to have applied for ADA accommodations, and HR is working on whether to grant those or not, or how they grant them. And then we've asked teachers that had an interest in being remote teachers to apply. I think we've extended that application time until, Monday. I think Angie said Monday, or maybe not, maybe tomorrow. Because we need to know how many students in grade clusters, because that impacts how many teachers we need. And then we have to look at the teaching staff and their certification, and we have to figure out what's going to work. And then after that, we have to then problem solve the holes that it's created in our building. So if a teacher is choosing to be remote and is going to offer remote instruction, that has an impact on our in-house staff. So we don't have any specifics yet, but that's where we're at, if that makes sense.
Christine, Scott is hoping that you can share the slides with the.
I can do that, yep. I can, as soon as I stop presenting, I can.
But I think, Christine, it's also why you have not been able to publish,
Right.
The actual teacher-student assignments yet. I mean, this is kind of the last step. And once we get this remote piece done, then we'll be able to match up those teachers, assign even the 100% remote kids to certain teachers. And we're hoping, I know Angie has worked her tail off with this. I mean, Angie, I'm just so appreciative of all the work you've done. I just can't imagine manipulating all of this data, and our administrative assistants calling people who didn't respond, because we want as much accuracy as we can. And we're still going to, we've kind of said to ourselves, we still expect on September 8th, that 6 kids are going to show up that we didn't expect, or 6 kids are going to stay remote that we don't see, and we don't know why they're not there. And, but if we can keep it to a small number, that's really critical. So I know Angie and the principals are just working so hard to make this all come together.
I'll just tell you that the numbers, when I just ran them, it's still not quite accurate, but as few as 3 up to 7 per grade level.
In a remote for Heartland?
Yeah.
So the second grade is off, Beth. That, I did. That was from the when Angie ran it the first time. There was a glitch in how it panned out in the spreadsheet. So that's good.
So it's not 10, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Right. My current numbers have it at 6
in second grade.
Yeah, that's a little better. Yeah.
So Nikki, I know this is kind of your section to run this meeting, but there is a community member question. So I don't know if now is the appropriate time for them to ask that question or not.
Yeah, I feel like we already answered that question, but I'll let you guys reiterate the answer.
You want to read the question, Brittany?
Yeah, the question is, are children going to be required to wear a mask?
In school, yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. So Christine, do you have more of an update, or is it just those numbers?
That's COVID. That's my COVID update. That's
great.
Yeah.
Moving right along. Yeah. Okay. So we move to hiring now.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop presenting so I can see you.
That sounds good.
It's so strange. So yes, I'm bringing to the board. Let me just see. Okay, I'm back. We have offered a position to a gentleman named Josh Kahan for our 7-8 math position that we've been trying to fill for months. He is a non-traditional teacher. He comes from the business world. He's actually owned a business. His background is math. He went to MIT and he has a math background in math. That was his major at MIT. And he's very, very excited about being a teacher. So we are, we've applied for a provisional and we're waiting to hear. I was actually emailing David today. I'm like, David, any news? Any news? It's getting close to start.
Yeah, I did reach out to the AOE too, and they usually get right back to me, but.
Okay, so we're waiting to hear, but we want to support him as much as possible. And in this model that we're in and looking at middle school, seeing if we can have him working pretty closely with another teacher, which would be really helpful because he doesn't have a background in teaching, but he does have a background in math. And, you know, he's worked at some camps and actually did some work at a preschool. So he has worked with children, you know, in his career, not specifically, but so he is the man we'd like to have as our math teacher.
So do you need us to make a motion to hire him on the condition that the provisional comes through?
Yeah.
Yeah, pending licensure, right.
Mm-hmm.
Pending licensure. Okay, that's a good one. So who wants to make a motion to hire Josh Kahan for the middle school math position pending, David, I lost your word.
Pending
licensure.
Come on now, you're not old enough for that to happen.
Oh my God, it's been a long week.
I can so move that.
My words have never been my thing. So.
Yeah, I guess not.
No.
We almost hired you as a math teacher, though.
Did I hear
No move.
Okay, Beth.
I'll second.
Second by Sarah. Okay, any discussion? I'll just say that I'm excited. I'm excited to have somebody that's coming from. I just feel like in math to have a real world practical experience.
Yeah.
I think will energize students to see math as more than something more exciting. So,
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
If you're bringing in someone who's provisional, do you have is there a process or protocol for helping them learn how to be a teacher and making sure, I don't know, the
Yes.
things are working, you know, or things are working, that kind of stuff?
Yes, they have to submit a plan. Actually, he'll have to take coursework. Not so much the math coursework, but the teaching coursework.
Teaching stuff.
Developmental stuff, and the
He'll be
teacher.
assigned a mentor.
Yeah. Yep. He will.
Okay. Great. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, he came on Friday to our volunteer work session with a cart, I don't know, trailer full of saplings to help us carry them down into the 17-acre woods. I'll tell you, that was a chore to build lean-tos. So he's already excited and involved in the community, which is great.
You're really looking for that accessible trail now, huh?
Oh my goodness. I was like, it was a long walk to the second grade, the one we're setting up for second grade. And it takes a lot of saplings. So yeah, it was a busy day, but he was a great help. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so if there's no further discussion, I'll say all those in favor of hiring Josh Kahan, assuming he gets his provisional license, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, all those opposed? I don't hear any opposed. Okay. So Christine, were there any other hiring things?
No, not today. As I said, we're looking at, how to structure in-person instruction based on who becomes a remote teacher. So, and it's, you know, we've got to look at the numbers in the grade levels and the space, because there are space requirements. And we'll try to do our best with, you know, the staff we have to adjust if need be. But so we're not planning to hire anybody right now if we can manage not to, but it's still kind of a work in progress.
And a budgetary question: are we staffed at the level that we projected to be staffed at when we wrote the budget?
I believe we are. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was kind of keeping track of in my head. I just
Yeah. And a matter of fact, because of the way it, you know, the retirements have gone and the, you know, and the new hires, you might even be a little better off, I think, in terms of savings, but that we should be able to report that in September.
sounds good. Okay. So there's a question in the chat box, but I don't understand what it means. Kara, do you want to pop on the microphone and let us know what your question is? Does anyone else understand?
No, I'm not clear on.
Okay.
what
Okay.
that is. Okay.
So
Just a question around meals. Craig's opening all the kitchens in each school, right? You're not just
Correct. Correct. That's what they've been working on the last couple of weeks.
Great. And are we still doing the fresh fruit and veggie program?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, I signed off on the grant. I think we've logistically trying to figure out how to get the food to the kids. So we've ordered carts, coolers. The coolers came in today, and we're assigning staff for the morning breakfast delivery and drop off, and lunch as well. Yeah, but he's just, he's getting the kitchen set up and getting all of that figured out.
How is he with his staffing?
I think is he looking to hire, David, or is he fully staffed?
Yeah, no, he's fully staffed at Heartland right now. And the way he's hiring, he's doing it so that, if he had to move a part-time person over to do something, he could. So he's really looking at it much more from an SU perspective. But I think across the SU, as of today, he just sent me his last recommendation. I think he's fully staffed now because he had to hire a fair number, 2 or 3 at Windsor to replace those, those cafe services employees. But I think he's hired a good staff and he's ready to go.
That's great.
How's supply chain staff? Are there any issues with getting materials in? And if you have trouble getting it, are there any materials that would keep us from being able to go start school?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Colleen. And right now, I check with Jim on almost a daily basis. He said he doesn't anticipate any blocks in the supply chain. He ordered early enough to get what he needs. He's got a lot of the essential PPE, the masks and the face shields, and some of that stuff has already arrived. So I think we're going to be okay. The one we had to order a lot of desks, not a lot of desks, but a fair number of desks, right? Because we had rooms set up with a lot of tables, and that just there was not a good way to divide them to get the social distancing. And so, but he says that from the vendor, the desks should be here September 1st. If not, that could be a little bit of a problem, but we've got a lot of yoga mats that we ordered. So maybe for the first week or so, kids will just, they're going to be outside a lot anyway, but maybe they'll also just be on the floor.
Yeah, most of it's in. I was organizing it today. We're waiting for the face shields. We've got the masks. We've got the agency provided KN95 masks for staff.
That's great.
Yeah, so we're in pretty good shape.
How many masks does each staff member get, and how is that all being handled?
So the KN95 masks, the doctors that we were chatting with about them, they can be reused multiple times. They just have to sit for 72 hours after you wear them. So we had enough to give everybody 5 to start with. So you've got a week's worth that you can, the recommendation is you label them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you put them in like you put Mondays in a Monday, like, brown paper bag. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of away from other contaminants. And after you wear it, you put it in the Monday bag, take out the Tuesday mask. By the time you wear the Monday mask again, it's sat enough to decontaminate. And they'll last. I mean, the doctor on the call, one person said you can wear each one 10 times for a full day. Now we won't, necessarily be in school the full day with masks on. So that could extend the life. But one doctor said she wore hers until it pretty much fell apart. So, I mean,
that doesn't seem like a good idea though.
It does not. No, she did say you can wear, so if you want to, you can wear the KN95 and then you can wear a cloth mask over it to keep it cleaner for a longer period of time, but that's incredibly hot. So
is it possible that we could start, are we ordering now to try to increase that supply so that we can replace them, when we should replace them, and so that we can replenish those supplies?
We should. I think the thinking is we're going to see how it goes the first few weeks and then make that determination. It would be a shame to order a whole bunch if we're not going to be in school. I guess That's the thinking. So,
and that'll get us 10 weeks is the idea. So if they can each be worn 10 times, that would get us 10
Correct.
weeks.
So that should give us a couple of weeks to look at it and see where we are.
Just because we've heard so much about the supply chain issues and that it can take a really long time to get, especially those masks, it might, I understand not pulling the trigger and ordering, but at least having feelers out and kind of get our request in the pipeline might be useful.
Yeah. Those came from the agency. The AOE donated all of those to staff from all over the state, and they were donated to the AOE. I believe they were excess from the medical field. So they planned, they didn't need as many as they thought they would need during during the springtime. So, which was great.
And then the ones that we'll give out free if kids don't come to school with a mask, or if their masks aren't the right kind, are those the sort of paper surgical ones that you get when you go to the doctor's office? We have a large supply of those. We also have the Mask Project is making some cloth masks for our schools as well. And I had an email today from Sarah. I'm not going to remember her last name, but there's a group of people in Heartland that make masks, and she said, "Do you need any?" Or
Sarah Kablinski.
Yes. Yeah. So I said, sure, if you guys absolutely will take masks. So we'll have those as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sounds like we'll be well covered. Okay. Oh, I lost my agenda. Hold on. And Anne has just commented that she saw a video on how to make bigger masks fit smaller faces. So that will be helpful.
Yeah, I saw that one. It's pretty. It looks like it's pretty easy to do. So
yeah, and I guess we should probably. And I don't know if David, you want to. I know we said it tonight, but maybe we should send out a reminder that kids should practice some masks for a little bit of time to see what the frustrations are with each mask and kind of get familiar with what might be most comfortable to be in school.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do plan to send out one more, if not two more, email blasts to parents with a few reminders. We're just trying to finalize, kind of what those reminders are. But that would be a good one. I think one of the latest decisions, which was to allow students to bring masks from home, I think will help, because that's giving parents a chance to experiment with different masks. I just think that, and I think this was mentioned earlier in the public forum, it's just going to have to be a mask that meets our approval and meets the standard. And I think, as somebody already said, Annette or somebody, we're not going to allow those neck chiefs, and it has to be a mask. So, and we'll have masks there to provide a student if they come with one that's not approved. But I think you're right, Nikki. The more they can practice this summer and find out what works for their child, the better off they'll be.
David, would you like me to send you, I've created a compilation of videos and resources for teachers and parents specifically about mask wearing and things like that. I can pick out, one or two of the best ones and send them to you if you want to include it in your letter.
That would be great.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you.
And then Beth, just put in the chat box for you, David, that the free and reduce lunch application reminder should go into every message that comes out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know. Fill it out.
So Beth, is it, Heidi was telling me, because I just put the link in my letter that I'm working on. Can families fill it out electronically online yet and submit it electronically?
They can. I believe they can, but the school has to. The school individually has to buy the service to be able to accept those.
Well, that's interesting because, Craig says yes.
I don't know if that's changed because of COVID, but that's how it was the last time I heard.
Yeah, no, I don't think it has. But in the middle of all these other changes, Craig decided he did not want to use mealtime any longer. And I can't remember, there's some Cadillac program that has apps and the application right online and all kinds of forms built in. Would you know what the name of that?
Yeah, I just
Maestro. Is it
No, but
it's not Maestro, but it's like that.
It's it begins with M. It definitely begins with M.
Yeah, it'll come to me. But anyhow, Craig. I mean, he sniffed it out. It's the best that's out there. A lot of the big districts use it, so he's going to change that over. And my understanding with that is, one of the advantages to that is they have a slick way to fill out that application, and it goes directly to Craig. So,
and I think it's just the messaging around it too. We really need to make sure that it's just not hey, are you hungry? Fill this out. That's not it. It's, this is a benefit for your school. We're losing, Title I Monday. If you, qualify like we want, it's much more of a community aspect to it. So just make sure we have those notes in there, not just, hey, remember to fill out your application. Really kind of, if we can put some points, and I can send you some links to Hunger Free's resources. They have some nice, little Facebook posts and things you can use and stuff too.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Angie, your hand was up a few minutes ago.
No, it's not Meals Plus.
Okay, I'll stop looking.
Okay. Something else?
I just wanted to say that the form can be found online. They can, but then they have to print it or use a PDF editor to edit it and then submit it.
Exactly. It's still not simple. It's something like the school has to, it has to buy into the program to be able to do it.
Right. It's not like a fillable form.
No.
Okay. So that was all part of hiring.
Sorry.
Believe it or not.
It's all important discussion. So we're moving on to Portrait of a Graduate. And I just have to start this discussion that I was so, the facilitation of Portrait of a Graduate and where we started all the way through to where we came, I just found was phenomenal. And I did not understand some of the facilitation tactics. I did not understand what was happening through some of the meetings. And then, 2 meetings later, I would see stuff that was happening show up as part of the product and just kind of be blown away at the process for how it all worked. So I was really pleased. And I think I would move to Angie and David to let us know where we are.
Yeah, and I'm going to defer to Angie because she spent countless hours on this as well. So,
And
yeah,
I also have to say, Angie, I don't know when you have slept between reviewing curriculums and organizing Portrait of a Graduate. And yeah, I'm impressed.
There is, well, thank you. There is something in my email from Mike, that final feedback from our last design team meeting. The strategic plan is at this point, we have to bring it to the board. I think our next step is to ask for an SU board chairs meeting a little bit before the SU board meeting at the end of September, so that the SU board chairs can go over the document and ask questions, and we can talk about the process, etc. Nikki and Elizabeth Burrows were involved in the design, in the the vetting team of the strategic plan, but the other two board chairs were not. So
I wasn't involved in the vetting. I wasn't on the writing. Who was it?
Were you on the writing? No, it was just Elizabeth then.
Yeah, it was just Elizabeth.
Yeah, sorry, I mixed up that last meeting. That's what happens.
I did, yes. When you don't sleep and you go to meetings all day long.
Right. So so then after, if the board approves it, we need to start working on our timeline. And I think what's really encouraging about our strategic plan is there's seeds in everything that we're doing now, even in this crazy remote hybrid pandemic. There are things that we are doing that are in alignment with our strategic plan. So even though most of us, probably all of us, feel like we have no brainwidth for this work, at this point, there are definitely things that we're doing that are moving us forward. So I think we're going to request that we put off any more formal work on it for a few months until we figure out what's happening with school. And in the meantime, we can be thinking about what is a reasonable time frame. We did set some dates for actually delivering things, but really the backward planning for that, like what has to happen this year in order to make that happen in 3 years, etc., that needs to be done. So
yeah, but we're getting ready. We're getting ready to disseminate that draft plan. We just want the board chairs to take one more look at it. Then we'll get it out to every board member, and it has to get vetted, at that level. But then then very soon we want to share it with our community. I was on a call, it was a call that with about 15 other superintendents from around the country who have Portrait of a Graduate districts. And I thought what was interesting, and many of them were in about the same place, or they were when COVID hit. And in general, many of them said they had to stop the work. They just did not continue the work. And I think it's a credit to our administrative team, our school boards, that design team, all those community members, that we did not stop the work. Mike pushed us. And even in the middle of all this craziness, we now have what I think is a fairly articulate plan that has some good dates that reflects, I think, the work that we've been doing and also want to do. And even in the middle of it all, as Angie said, we were able to pull that off. So I was pretty proud of our supervisory union and our district after talking to those superintendents. And even Mike said that. Mike said most people just said, no mas, we're going to wait until this is over. So I think that's just a credit to people's desire to keep this supervisory union moving and to work to the betterment of our community and our kids. I think that's a credit to everybody.
Yeah, I think that everybody did a lot of hard work. And I have to say that this is the first strategic plan that I've read for a school that I can understand. It's written in English, and it's clear, and it's exciting. It's not just clear. It's exciting. It's going to change the way we do things, I hope, and I'm excited to see that happen. Okay, so moving right along. Christine, we had put an update on the Acceptance and Understanding Committee. I don't know if that's planned or.
Yeah, I can just give a quick update. So the committee has been meeting all summer, actually. Every Monday we meet and kind of framed what we would like to do with staff this year. We actually planned the first couple of staff meetings at the start of the year. So we're going to move forward with our work on implicit bias, and we're talking about how to do that safely and how to talk about issues of race that that are plague the country and happen in our school, and how to address those and give staff the tools and the knowledge they need to go forward with that work. So that's going on. There's also been a book study led by Heather Pogue. We read White Fragility, a couple chapters a week, had discussions online about, our thoughts around what we were reading and our takeaways. So that was, I think there were 30-ish people that participated pretty regularly, which is amazing. And there were lots of deep discussions. And until you start doing the work, you just don't understand. So it's been pretty powerful. So we're excited about that. And I know we are committed to an SU anti-racism task force. I think our goal is September. We were hoping August, but we're at full capacity right now. So September. So that's still going to happen, but that work's moving forward, which is quite awesome, I think, in the direction we need to go. So kudos to the staff. Put a lot of time in this summer on their own time to do some of the work, which is great. So
that's really fantastic. I think.
Yeah.
Kudos to the staff. And 30, that's
a lot.
Yeah. What proportion of our total staff is that?
Well, it was open. There were a couple. Angie joined. There were a couple other staff, like Gina Davis, our literacy coach, our instructional liter. Gosh, I am tired. I can't form a sentence. Gina was on it as well. You guys. So it wasn't just Heartland, but mainly Heartland.
I just think that's phenomenal, and that's it's just exciting that we're that engaged.
Yeah, agreed. So
cool.
So that's the update on that. Yep.
Okay.
I'll keep you updated as the work happens this year.
Okay. So we need to set the next agenda. So our next meeting is September 21st. Does everybody have that?
Let's make sure.
We might have some stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
We probably will. Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So
I'm pretty sure you're going to get a COVID update.
Yeah. I might change that to a reopening update. But yeah. So we got COVID update. And then I think we'll be done with hiring. We'll do a portrait update.
Yeah, I would keep that acceptance. I would keep that because by then we might be looking for finalizing members to that
task force.
Right, that task force. So I would keep that on the agenda.
Will we have any? I'm just thinking about. There's a lot of information from the state that I'm hoping we'll have and we'll get at that point, but certainly information about about the state of COVID in our state and our community, and any new guidelines from the health department, but also budget information. We should have some more information at that point.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Sarah. And I know that finally just today, the guidelines came out on the distribution of the CARES money and the ESSER money. So Ed's trying to sort it all out. He sent it out to, I don't know, Angie, if you got a copy of that, but we all got a piece of that to look at that. But I think some sort of I don't know whether he'll be prepared to give us a first quarter financial update, or, that might be pushing it, but certainly to address COVID financial issues related to COVID. I think we can invite Ed, and we could do some of that. I think that's not a bad idea at all.
And we do need to start thinking about next year, so we should.
Yeah, because believe it or not, I hate to say this, but
It happens quick.
that budget process is going to creep up on us. Like, by October, we should be talking FY 22, FY 21, 21 budget, or are we in 21?
22. It'll be FY
22.
22.
FY 22 budget. Yeah. So, and that's going to be interesting. I do know that Ed's got some financial. He does have some financial in terms of closeout. I don't know, Christine, whether he shared anything with you. I don't have it right in front of me, but
No, I have not seen the closeout. I have not
but
seen
I think
it.
I think Heartland, and I think you knew this because he gave you preliminary numbers, and it was all related to, I think it was 8 or 9 new high school students that moved in that we hadn't budgeted for. Doesn't take long for that to rack up, but I know you're in that, upwards to $150,000 to $200,000 deficit, but he had not applied the ESSER money and he had not applied the COVID relief money. So, that could get better.
I thought he said it was around 60 the last time
60,000.
I thought that's what he said, but I could be wrong.
It's possible. I was going to look through because I think he carry on, and I'll see if I can get his email on that to me.
So Nicole, there is one bit of new news from the negotiating team for the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union.
Okay.
We do have a date set. So our team leader, Bill Yates, has set up a meeting with the teacher side of the table, and it's going to be September 16th. So in Windsor, in room 210, in person, with masks and distancing. So by this meeting that we're looking at right now, maybe we'll have something to say about that. I think it's going to be somewhat organizational from where they're on, but we'll see.
Great.
September 16, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so just to rehash what we have while we're waiting for David to come up with numbers, we've got a COVID update, we've got portrait of a graduate, acceptance and understanding. I have a statewide update, reorganized the budget or the agenda. And then I think we need to have a preliminary budget discussion and then a negotiations update, which may have to be an executive session, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay. I do think that we have a tentative executive session scheduled for tonight, and I do think that we should have a quick executive session to discuss personnel issues, and then I think we can call it a night. I noticed that there were a lot of teachers that tuned in tonight, and I want to thank you guys for taking the time to join us. All of us really care about you guys. We're excited to see you again. I wish that there was less stress associated with being able to see you guys again. And I wish that we could all just have a big kumbaya moment, but I do hope, and the science to me says that we should be safe and opening. And I hope that what the scientists tell us is safe, and that it will be, and that things will go very smoothly. But I have a lot of faith in David and Christine and Angie and Brittany to pull the plug if needed. So we're gonna. Thank you guys for taking the time out to join us tonight. So with that, I'll take a motion to move. Or Sarah, did you say something?
I just said, I just want to say thank you. This is an incredibly difficult moment we're in here, and we appreciate our teachers and staff members so much, and yeah, I feel for everybody who's working through this. There's so much to it. And yeah, I mean, I'll just echo Nikki that at this moment, everything I've seen tells me that we can do in person, but that we are watching very, very closely, and I have faith that our administrators will do what's necessary to keep staff safe. And it's that, it's that cut and dry for me that we'll be watching very closely, and we want to hear from you. I want to hear how people are doing and how people are feeling. So thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Scott as the move and Colleen as a second. And then I think David, or do we have to do all those in favor? Say aye.
Yeah.
Aye. Okay.
And I'll need to stop recording. And Angie, I think I can do it, but I know you've got the ownership. Is Diane here, or do you know is somebody taking minutes?
Guess who?
Angie.
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 I bet she is so good at it.
Well,
I will stop the recording right now. And
Okay.
it was Colleen that seconded the move to the executive session to discuss personnel.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
So,
Stop recording.
okay. And